Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. Hope you're all doing very well today. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of Willie Wood. Now, this is a 1963 Topps Football. It's actually one of my favorite card sets from the 1960s. And while I'm not going for the entire set, I have the majority of the Hall of Famers in this set. I think I'm only missing Jim Brown. But this was a very difficult card for me personally, and it might not be difficult for everybody, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't find a copy that I thought was acceptable. And one of the reasons why is because if you can see this card is a little bit off center, and 1963 Topps Football and baseball too have some, well, they're notorious for a certain condition issues, and one of those is being off center, as you can see here. But the other thing too that you want to keep in mind when you're collecting these cards is the bottoms and the corners. They will chip pretty easily, and along the sides as well. But I really like this set. I think it's a really cool set. I think maybe the baseball issue from 1963 is a little more condition sensitive. But the other thing too with actually both of these sets is that you can find a lot of like print streaks and bubbles as well in these cards. So they are going to be a little bit of a challenge. But I think I think that it's well worth it. You can find a lot of Hall of Famers and rookies in this set, and this is actually Willie Wood's rookie card. And it took me a while to try to track one down that I really liked. I'll show you the back of it, just in case you guys have not seen these cards. It's a little bit fuzzy here, but the I don't know what you call this. It looks like some kind of artwork here that is in 3D, and it looks like you need 3D glasses to see it, but it is actually quite nice. Now, I'm uh, I'm kind of a fan of sports history more than any kind of sport or team, so I don't really follow teams all that much. I used to when I was a kid, but I've really since stopped watching a lot of sports um, teams and all that. So uh, when I do watch a game, it's usually an older game, and I'm usually studying it for history or historical purposes. And so the Green Bay Packers are actually one of my favorite historical teams. They are one of the oldest, in fact, in the NFL, and they were founded in 1919 by Curly Lambeau and George Whitney Calhoun, and they entered the NFL on looks like August of 1921, August 27th of 1921. The other two teams that are about the same age. Actually, one is a lot older. That would be the Cardinals. They originally were the Chicago Cardinals, and then the I believe the St. Louis Cardinals or the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals were founded in 1898, and then the New York Giants in 1925. So Green Bay is right up there as being one of the oldest NFL teams continuously. Um, they were in several championships in 1929, 1930, 1931, 1936, 1939, and 1944. So the Vince Lombardi era covers 1959 to 1967. Unfortunately, Vince Lombardi does not have a card that I'm aware of on his own. So today, I really wanted to talk to you about Willie Wood, and he has an amazing career. And there's something else that I want to tell you a little bit about in regards to Willie Wood at the very end. and I found two really interesting articles that I think you're going to enjoy. So here we go. This is from the Los Angeles Times, August 6th, 1989. Pac-Man. New Hall of Famer Wood was Green Bay's Lombardi on the field, by William Gilday. Washington. Green Bay was something. It was far and small and cold. Sometimes you went up from Chicago or Milwaukee in a DC-3. Sometimes you stopped in Oshkosh. On a Saturday night in Green Bay, the streets were empty. If you walked a block, the wind would tell you why. The bars would be full. Everybody would be talking about the Green Bay Packers, the Pack. All those guys in this one little town, kind of giants of the Northland, Hornig and Taylor and Starr and Nitschke and Willie Davis and Herb Adderley and Forrest Gregg. They're all in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Saturday, at least, they were joined by their free safety, Willie Wood. Willie Wood alone could bring down Jim Brown in the open field. Wood came from the District of Columbia, a free agent out of USC with a dream of playing pro football. In 1960, he landed at his outpost that Vince Lombardi ruled like a foreign legion. No rookie had time to reflect on where he was. Depending on the viewpoint, the quaintest football town in America, or surely the end of the earth. Lombardi all but squeezed the life out of each player with mental pressure and physical torment. And who around was going to tell Lombardi, with his gap-toothed, maniacal grin, to chill out? A Packer sitting in his motel room on the eve of the game looked out his window and saw Lombardi walking patrol. "There's a man," he said with contempt, "who doesn't have a friend in the world." That's what many Packers thought of Lombardi then, but not what they thought of him when they won all the big games, and not what they thought of him when he left Green Bay, and not when he died, and certainly not now when they think of him. "If I'm here," said Wood, and indeed Saturday he was in Canton, Ohio, to be enshrined, "Vince had to be the one who got me here." A player who had been of no concern to so many pro scouts, general managers, and coaches, Wood was as obvious as a snowstorm to Lombardi. He was fast and a sure tackler. He could hit a runner at the ankles and put him on his head. He could steal a pass, return a punt, block and kick, and pick up another defender's slack. He never missed a game. As the free safety, he was as free as any player ever was in the Lombardi scheme of football. He was the one player Lombardi expected a surprise from and usually got. Lombardi didn't give leeway. When Jerry Kramer and Fuzzy Thurston pulled out from their guard positions for a Hornig sweep, they followed a road map. When Starr threw deep to Dowler or McGee, it was to put spot that Lombardi had pinpointed during the week. When Willie Davis rolled over an offensive tackle and wrapped up a quarterback, it was on Lombardi's command. What Wood could do, and Lombardi loved to see, was the flow of play reversed, suddenly going the Packers' way, with Wood running back an intercepted pass. Tucking the ball under his arm, he put away the first Super Bowl with an interception and 50-yard return. But what Lombardi liked most about Wood was his leadership. In the still stellar instant replay, the Green Bay Diary of Jerry Kramer, Kramer wrote, "Next to Lombardi, Wood scares his own teammates more than anybody else does. Wood ever scares Ray Nitschke. I hate to miss a tackle," Ray says, "'cause if I do, I know I'm gonna get a dirty look from Willie. He'll kill you with that look." To understand how tough Nitschke was, reserve Steve Wright helped put it in perspective. Before Wright took an offensive job with the Everseal Industrial Glue Company, which needed a salesman up in the Wisconsin area. The job was offered to Niski, who didn't want it. Wright used to fantasize about Niski as a glue salesman. He'd throw down a hunk of glue in front of you and say, "You want some glue? Here, buy it." The late Henry Jordan was tough too. Wright never has gotten over the tackle from Virginia. His life or his death. He had back trouble and he used to get all doubled up with cramps on hot days. They used to straighten him out by hanging him up on a door. I can still remember old Henry just hanging up there. If Wood was that tough and that good, 8 Pro Bowls in 12 seasons between 1960 and 1971, why did it take 13 times before he got through writers' votes to make it into the Hall? It's been a hard wait. People would ask me, "Willie Wood, why aren't you in the Hall of Fame?" I never had any comment on that. My wife was the spokesperson on that question. She wanted it for me. She died waiting. Sheila Wood died a year and a half ago. It was heart failure, Wood said. It was unexpected. But enough of that. Wood, a Washington businessman, has yet to be named to any coaching job or meaningful management position in the National Football League. But that didn't stop him from becoming a pro football's first black head coach in the World Football League and later in the Canadian Football League. Now he's been out of the game since 1982. He waited. Sheila waited. Their 3 children were there for Saturday's induction ceremony. So was his mother and half of DC, he said, and Fuzzy and the gang. Thurston, McGee, Davis, Dave Robinson, Ron Kostelic, Kramer, Paul Hornig, Adderley. The Packers always moved together. On Saturday mornings under Lombardi, they'd take a train down from Green Bay to play home games in Milwaukee. Like an army slowly closing on the front, they rolled silently through the Dairyland. Before the war, however, was the fun. They had it backward, but not by choice. It was off to Green Bay right after the game. The first thing I was out with the veterans, Wright recalled, was in Milwaukee. I thought I was really big time. I went down and bought a Stetson hat, and that night I found a girl in town, picked her up, and went over to a place. It had a back room, and all the Packers were there. Hornig, Jerry Kramer, Jim Taylor, Ron Kramer, Dan Curry, Max McGee, Buzzy Thurston, the whole crowd. I walked back there with my date, and that was the last time I ever saw that hat or her. Here they were again, all coming to Canton to celebrate once more for Willie Wood. Canton, Wood said, will never be the same. A lot of it now is just talk of Vance, of the coldest day, of the deepest mud, of the heaviest rains, of the driving snows, and the clearings after the storms, the sunshine in their youth. This is from the LNP, always Lancaster, Pennsylvania, February 5th, 2020. Hall of Fame DB, former Packers great, dies at 83. Los Angeles. Willie Wood, the Hall of Fame defensive back who won 5 NFL championships with the Green Bay Packers under coach Vince Lombardi and made the first interception in Super Bowl history, died Monday. He was 83. Wood died of natural causes in Washington, according to Robert Schmidt, his longtime friend and former teammate at Southern California. Wood had suffered from advanced dementia for several years. After being undrafted out of Southern California, Wood sent postcards to several NFL teams seeking a tryout. The 5'10", 190-pounder signed as a free agent with the Packers and played safety for them from 1960 to 1971. The Packers saw his heart while the others saw his size. Jim Hill, who played for the Packers from 1972 to 1974 and is now a sports director for KCBS TV in Los Angeles, told the Associated Press. Vince had an eye like Joe Torre or Tom Lasorda. He could see talent where other people couldn't. Wood had a key interception in the first Super Bowl, returning it 50 yards to set up a third quarter touchdown that sealed the Packers' 35-10 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in 1967. Willie was Mr. Packer on defense, along with Ray Nitschke. Hill told the AP, while set the tone and the pace for people who played safety. Very smart, very articulate, a good tackler. Anything that was good about sports and football was Willie Wood. Wood had a 31-yard punt return in the second Super Bowl that stood as a record for 16 years. The Packers beat the Oakland Raiders 33-14 in the 1968 title game. The Green Bay Packers family lost a legend, Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy said. Willie's success story, rising from an undrafted rookie free agent to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is an inspiration to generations of football fans. While his health challenges kept him from returning to Lambeau Field in recent years, his alumni weekend visits were cherished by both Willie and our fans. Willie was a 9-time All-NFL first or second team honoree and Associated Press All-Pro from 1964 to 1968. He played in 8 Pro Bowls. He won 5 of the 6 NFL championship games he played in. In his career, he had 48 interceptions and had 1,391 yards on 187 punt returns. His 154 career starts was an NFL record for safety. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1989 and the Packers Hall of Fame in 1977. He was named to the NFL 1960s All-Decade Team and was one of 2 safeties chosen on the Super Bowl Silver Anniversary Team in 1990. The game has lost a true legend with the passing of Willie Wood. Hall of Fame president and CEO David Barker said, he had an unbelievable football career which helped transform Green Bay, Wisconsin into Titletown, USA. Willie was a rare player who always fought to be a great teammate and achieve success. The flag at the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio will be flown at half-staff in Wood's memory. At USC, Wood played quarterback and defensive back from 1957 to 1959. He was the first black quarterback in what is now the Pac-12 conference. He was a team captain as a senior when the Trojans were 8-2. He came to USC after playing the 1956 season at Coalinga, California Junior College, where he was a JC All-American. Wood went into coaching after his playing days. He became the first black head coach in the sport's modern era with the World Football League's Philadelphia Bell in 1975. He also was the first black head coach in the Canadian Football League with the Toronto Argonauts in 1980 and 1981. He was also had stints as an assistant coach with the San Diego Chargers and Argonauts. After coaching, Wood ran his own business in the Washington, D.C. area. He is regarded as one of D.C.'s greatest high school athletes after starring at Armstrong High. A city street is named Willie Wood Way. Wood is survived by his sons Willie Jr., who coached at D.C.'s Woodrow Wilson High School and in the Arena Football League, and Andre and daughter LaJoanne. His wife Sheila died in 1988. For all of Willie Wood's success and his awards and his achievements, there's something here that really kind of bothers me a little bit, actually quite a bit, in fact. And that happens to be the fact that he got dementia as mostly, as they think, a direct result of his playing career. And I wanted to look into this. I didn't want to miss this because football, I love football. I really do. I love the sport. I love its history. It was almost banned in 1905, and it took President Teddy Roosevelt to prevent that from happening. But it also is a very dangerous sport as well, as is boxing. I wanted to look into how many ball players, football players, have had dementia or died of dementia or related Alzheimer's. And there's several forms of dementia, not just Alzheimer's. But it is a really interesting thing here because I was actually reminded quite recently that a lot of these older ball players have a lot of physical ailments associated with their playing career. The pensions that they're getting or have gotten are inadequate, wholly inadequate. So there was a 2023 Boston College study where 345 out of the 376 players that had passed away, they found that 91% of these guys had CTE. And in the description below, I'm going to put a link to the list of former football players who have died from CTE and guys who have died who they think have had CTE, and then players who are still living with CTE and dementia as well, and Alzheimer's. There's a huge amount of football players who have died from dementia and Alzheimer's. So I've read also that there's a link, a direct link between Lou Gehrig's disease and Parkinson's disease and football. And I also know that there's a direct link between Lou Gehrig's disease and combat veterans as well. Both of these groups have a higher risk factor for both dementia and Lou Gehrig's disease. And I think the link here is actually brain trauma. It is some form of trauma. And I've told you guys in the past, my grandfather during World War II, he was a bomber, a bombardier, and he ended up getting Lou Gehrig's disease, and it was quick, but there is a known connection between combat veterans and Lou Gehrig's disease, and Lou Gehrig himself had obviously ALS. They named the disease after him, but I was kind of wondering how he actually acquired Lou Gehrig's disease or ALS. I seem to remember that he had a fractured skull during a game, and they pulled Lou Gehrig out of the game, so he didn't lose his winning streak. But that may have actually been the spark for him to get Lou Gehrig's disease, and it probably happened, I think, 1938, obviously by 1939, and we know how that played out, unfortunately. But Parkinson's disease, these guys also get in a higher amounts than the average population is too. Willie Wood is, again, he's one of my favorite players to study. And I really started to study Green Bay Packers history and the Green Bay Packers of the Lombardi era when I started to collect the 1963 Topps. And this is a really great set. There's a lot of Green Bay Packers in here, and I was really curious to see how many Green Bay Packers are actually in the Hall of Fame. And it turns out that there are 28 Green Bay Packers in the Hall of Fame in Canton, and 12 of those guys are from the Lombardi era. Now, you do have a few other guys from the era too who should be in the Hall of Fame and aren't. And Fuzzy Thurston is the first guy that comes to mind. And I think he's not in there because Green Bay is already, and a lot of people believe, are overrepresented by Green Bay Packers players and followed by New York Giants players, which may be one of the reasons why Charlie Connolly is not in the Hall of Fame, although he got a nod last year for Canton. And so what was also mentioned in one of these articles here too was that it took Willie Wood a very long time to actually get into the Hall of Fame. That's not unsurprising. It's not that unusual actually for these guys to wait. A lot of times the nod will be right after they die. The Hall of Fame itself, the process, it needs to change because you're getting a lot of these players who have dementia or whatever, uh, and they don't know that they're actually have been inducted in the Hall of Fame. You have a couple of cases like that where ball players like Maxie Bogan, who had died during the selection process itself, and I believe he was 86 or 88 years old when he passed away. And if he's getting the nod for the first time, that's disgraceful to me. So I think that Canton really needs to change the way it looks at some of these ball players getting in the Hall of Fame while they are cognizant of that fact. And again, because of their play on the field, um, these guys also they've suffered a lot after their career. Obviously, like I had said, so CTE refers to chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and uh, it's only diagnosed until the person has passed away. Unfortunately, you do have like 4,500 ball players who brought lawsuits to the NFL, and that was in 2016. Prior to this, the NFL had denied that there was a link between playing football and CTE, and there's a really good movie about this as well.